So I'll explain the background to that another time when he's not in the room. So we've just got a few things to run through. It's not; these are all of this material is somewhere. So we're kind of bringing together. You get loads of paperwork and kind of different files and stuff at the start of term. So we just want to go through some highlights, and also there are things that you might want to pause and ask us questions about. But there's lots of time as well to ask more questions. Having said that, there's not loads and loads of time because classes start on Monday. Or rather, classes start on Tuesday.
Monday.
The first session is on Monday. So we're going to run through these things, but hopefully fairly quickly, and then leave time for questions. You can ask us questions as we go through, but we might just say, we'll deal with that later, because there's some things that you just don't need to worry about right now. So, the course structure, Miguel.
Okay. Think of the masters, well, any masters in particular IDS, but think of the MA Gov, and we call it MA Gov, you notice that. There's the MA Globe or Globalization, there's the MA Dev, Development Studies, MA POV, Poverty, MAP, the participation, the food, we just call it food. And there's the climate change, we can't forget the climate change, which is 3 schools together. So it's IDS, it's the School of Global Studies, and the Business Economics, where SPRU is. SPRU is the Science Policy Research Unit, which is a think tank like IDS, started at the same time, and they do more science policy. And the 3 of them came up with the MSc in climate change. And the reason why is because we used to have 3 masters in climate change, and Sussex didn't like that. But think of your master's program as you've taken a year of work to read. That's largely what you do. Well, some of you are still working. But largely, this is how a colleague of ours put it, and it's really a good way of thinking about it, is you're taking a break from your work to read, and what we do is we're going to have some classes where we talk about stuff that we tell you should read, some of the things you must read, which are the essential readings, and then every couple of months we ask you, so what have you read and what do you think about it, which are the essays and the papers and so on and so forth. And then when you get to the end of the year, the last 3 months is you have an idea, you have a puzzle. There's something we don't know about the world, and I'm going to try to find that answer, or I think I have an answer, and I'm going to test to see if it's true or not, and that's your dissertation. So overwhelmingly what we do here is, what we're going to be doing throughout the year is you're reading, and we're talking. We have seminar groups where we discuss the readings and so on and so forth, including everything you read until today. Why we do that? Because it's super expensive to bring in the academics who write this stuff into the classroom. A lot of them have died as well. So the best way is to use the books, is to use the articles. And in fact, when we refer, you'll notice this as you're writing, that when you refer to authors like Marx says this, it's the present tense, right? Because Marx might have died, but his work is still alive, right? And you always use the present tense when you're referring to authors, because the work is still present. So what we do is, well, you kind of have to make 180 credits to get a master's degree. And the 180 credits are spread more or less like this. We have 60 credits in this term 1, which are 2 11-week modules. One is the Political Economy Perspectives on Development, which is on Thursdays. Mick Moore is the module convener, and then there's lots of different instructors coming in. And on Tuesdays you have Making Public Policy, which is not about making public policy, it's about policy implementation and how things go wrong and right, and kind of trying to figure out why things go wrong or not.
We thought of changing the name, but the form is very long, which is quite funny given that a lot of the course is about bureaucracy.
I know, yeah. And there's 2 things you learn like week 2, which is one thing is the noun, the bureaucracy, the other thing is the adjective, being bureaucratic. We want bureaucracy, it's just not bureaucratic. And Anu Joshi is the module convener for Making Public Policy. And that's your 60 credits. So that's Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then you have seminars. We just made the seminar groups. So you'll be either, there's 3 seminar groups for making public policy.
This is on another slide.
Okay. Which are on Tuesdays, 2 to 3:30, or 3:30 to 5. And 1 on Wednesday mornings. And for political economy perspectives on development, you have 4 seminar groups. 2 to 3:30 at the same time. Elodie is the tutor for 1, and Max Gillian is the tutor for the other one, and then 3:30 to 5. Making public policy, you're doing 1 week, right?
Kind of.
Kind of.
So on making public policy, either Meenakshi or I will be the tutor for that week. So you either have everyone will have a seminar with Meenakshi, or you'll all have a seminar with me.
The nice thing about this model is that the tutors are in. They know they were there because you notice the instructors keep on changing. And the reason why we do that is because instead of kind of figuring out, say, Anu Joshi, okay, you're going to teach this module, what Anu does is she looks around IDS and says, okay, for all these different themes, think of each week as a different theme or issue. Who's the best person at IDS to teach that? More or less the idea. So because you have so many different instructors, the advantage of having the same tutors throughout the module, throughout the term, is that they know what happened last week, they know what's going to happen next week, and they give you that continuity in the seminars. Has everybody had classes with seminars, or anyone? Some of you might have not had seminars in your life. So the model it's fairly simple. So think for each week. Think of it as a sequence where you have your 2 hours class, and then there's 1 hour and a half seminar, but it doesn't start here, right? It starts earlier when you read the essential readings. So there's always 2 or 3 essential readings, which are 2 or 3 chapters or of a particular book or journal articles. And you read them before. In fact, we start even earlier. There is a module document, which, have you seen the module documents? So in the module documents, each week it has the learning objectives. By the end of this session, the students will be, that's a good starting point. It gives you some interesting questions. So you pick up of, okay, this is what I'm supposed to know at the end of this week. Let me do some reading. So you start doing your readings. Once you've done the readings, you get a gist of what we're discussing. You bring in some issues. Then there's a lecture live, in person. Hey. And then, because there's always stuff that you want to continue, you want to go deeper, or there's some exercise or something, that's when you have a smaller group of around 14, 15 of you, where you have that seminar. And the seminar is precisely that space. Since you're in charge of the seminars, you want to say something else about the seminars?
I was going to do it on Tuesday when you have your first
There
seminar.
you go.
So the seminars are a smaller group, 14 or 15. It's not about, and that's about, it's not about input. So you get lots of input in the class, but the seminars we do exercises, we talk about the reading of the week. It's about you talking to each other, supporting each other's learning. It's not about Meenakshi or I or Elodie or Max kind of teaching you. It's about we facilitate a discussion. So there might be extra things we bring in. We have exercises that we do. And they change a bit during term. But yeah, they're really fun. I love doing them.
Just slight difference is you'll notice, so making public policy, it's only the MA Gov students. For political economy perspectives on development, we open, it's also an option for the MA globalization students and for the MA dev students, sorry. So usually there's around, I don't know, it depends on the numbers of the years, but it'll be around maybe 15, 20, 25 students that will join that. So the seminars are going to be around 20 of you. Yeah, I think that's it.
So there is a chance, depending on how many students from MA Dev and MA Glob want to do PEPD, there's a lot of acronym things there, there's a chance that a seminar might have to go into Friday, because there's 2 parallels at the seminars, 4 seminar groups already planned. Yeah. But we don't know the numbers.
Yes. Yeah. Well, so far the number is 61, which means 4 seminar groups of about 20 people. The reason why we don't know these things is Because you're still arriving, you're still dropping out, the MI globalization are still thinking, oh, do I want to do this or do I do economics? So the numbers keep on changing, and we have to be adaptive. We have to be, the word of the term, iterative. Adaptive learning and all of that, adaptive management, which I don't teach this year. We got Tom Harrison for that.
We do.
Can you go to the previous slide, sorry? There's something else here. So the other master's programs call it course sessions, and they are a couple of hours a week. We don't do that things here. At the MAGov, we have, especially the first few weeks, it's 4 hours. You'll notice it's 4 hours, it's 2 hours in the morning, 10 to 12, and 2 hours in the afternoon, 2 to 4. And what we do there is we train you, we work on your critical thinking skills. As I said, it's not about answers, it's about asking, the right question and being critical about, don't just take things for granted. In fact, it was in your year that we came up with the acronym.
I think I came up with it.
Yeah, it was you and Nora and a few people. It's a bit of a network of the MA governance. So what we'll do is, throughout the Mondays of term 1, we're going to build on this. And one thing, I've been doing this for 9 years now. And it used to be teaching sessions, and I realized you can't teach people critical thinking skills. You have to train them. It's a skill. So what we do is we'll run through a few exercises on next Monday on how to read critically, the following Monday on how to write critically, the third Monday on, well, that's Colin actually, on how do you engage with the literature. Do you know what a literature review is? Literature review? Yeah? It's a horrible name. You don't do a literature review, you review the literature. There's a subtlety there, which is about how do you engage with whatever you're reading, depending on the purpose as well. So Colin is going to go over that with you, with some exercises on how do you engage with the literature, how do you use concepts, how do you conceptualize things, and how do you frame your research. Then
I'm sorry, we're also going to cover, because when we retitled this 2 days ago, that will also cover referencing and citation and evidencing your arguments.
Yeah.
Yes. But the deadline for the introduction essay is on the 3rd, so
yes.
we'll cover that afterwards.
Ta-da! Yes. Yes.
Adam's,
Your introductory essay, the deadline is at 9 a.m. I used to have it at 10 a.m., but then people would come late too, because some of them were writing at the last minute.
Let's come on to that, because the slides are meant to make you talk about one thing at a time.
Oh, okay. So we'll go over, it's her fault. So the fourth Monday, we're doing 2 different sessions. In the morning, we'll have a couple of hours on argumentation skills, or how do you make an argument, how do you test other people's arguments. And the way that we'll do that is I'll just have a recording. So I'll send you beforehand on kind of the basics. For people who didn't do philosophy or logic in their high school or secondary school or university, it gives you kind of basic foundations on premises and logic. And then in the morning, what we'll do is we'll play around with some exercises on cognitive biases and heuristics and logical fallacies and so on and so forth. And just to show you how bad we humans are at making choices. Which is kind of problematic when you make policies. And then in the afternoon, we will have a session on how do you work in cross-cultural groups, because I don't know if you notice, everybody's from everywhere. And even if we were all Colombians, we would be coming from different work habits and different organizations. So there's a whole organizational culture that is connected to particular organizations, and therefore we have different ways of working and thinking about work. And what we'll do in that session is, we'll go a little bit into the theory, not too much, but it's overwhelmingly, think of Monday the 17th afternoon as you telling your colleagues, this is how I like to work, and your colleagues, and you seeing how your colleagues like to work. That's more or less it. So we'll do some exercises. On the 24th, we do a midterm review. Midterm means we're not evaluating you guys, you're evaluating the master's program. And until then, how are things going? What are the things that might need some tweak for next year? What are the things that might need to be tweaked for this year as well? To be confirmed, because we don't know who's going to do it. For the past few years, course conveners do the midterms of other courses, so that neither of us are here in the room and you can badmouth us as much as you want. We're probably doing that with MA Gender or the poverty one. 7th of November, you notice the next Monday there's nothing, because that's the week you're submitting the Making Public Policy essay. So before you start complaining that, oh, we're writing the essay, we need those 2 hours of Monday. There's no tact session that week. The following week, on the 7th of November, we'll probably have Sohail and Nazneen to run 2 workshops on gender-aware practice and research. And let me put it like this. The MA Gov somehow tends to be famous, or used to be famous, for being the most sexist of all the master's programs. Used to be. So I've decided a few years ago, let's have a session on how to be more gender aware, both in research, but also in practice, in everyday life. And I've been bringing in different people to do the training, and for the past 5 years, it works really well with Sohail. Sohail is very good at training. She's also going to teach you a couple of classes throughout the next couple of terms. So what we do there is she kindly does the same session twice on the day. So because there's 44 of you, right? It's a lot of people to train. So half of you will be trained by Sohail 10 to 12, and the other half 2 to 4. Then there's nothing again, there's 14th of November, nothing. Why? Because that's the week you're submitting your PEPD, your political economy essay. On the 21st of November, we try to bring in the Mo Ibrahim Foundation. Have you ever heard of the Mo Ibrahim Index, Governance Index? Yeah, so we bring them every year for 2 reasons. One, because they can talk about, well, how do you come up with an index to measure governance? Which they do for the whole African continent every year, well, every second year now. And then the other part of the talk is, well, what's the status of governance in Africa? So it's really interesting because of that. So we'll bring them in, and this is only 2 hours in the afternoon. On the 28th, we're thinking possibly to do an essay clinic. We're assuming that around the 28th of November, you would have received feedback from your first essay, and you are now lost and crying and expecting better grades or not understanding the comments and the feedback. So the idea is that Colin and I will have a session with you on kind of unpacking what are we saying, what things like, how much British English do you know, by the way? When I say nice, what does nice mean?
It's not good.
Not good. When I say interesting, it means what? Not interesting. Yeah. So it's important to learn. It's a new language for some of you.
Quite interesting. It means it's terrible.
Yes.
It's very boring.
Yeah. Not bad.
Not bad. Well done.
So you see, there's a whole new language that you need to learn.
Sometimes things that are not bad are actually quite good.
Yeah.
How do you use nice and again to say things like not nice?
Well, that's a very nice point. That's a nice question. That's an interesting question, which means not.
So we will spend some time doing some translation of your essay comments, because they can sometimes be a little bit hard to understand.
But also to kind of pick up on what was missing in your first essays, to see that if you improve, for the second essays, which are the ones you submit in January. And then usually 30th, you notice it's a Wednesday, because usually we do this on Wednesday afternoon, just because it's a tradition for the past, 7 or 8 years, which is we go down to the Brighton City Council, or the Hove City Council, one of the two, where the head of governance for the Brighton City Council, Brighton and Hove City Council, will kind of give you a nice presentation on local government in the UK, in England and Wales, because it's different, and the history of it, of who's in charge of what, both in terms of the selected members, i.e. the bureaucrats, and the elected members, and they actually call them the members, which are the councillors, and give you a bit of the politics of Brighton. Brighton is very exciting because it has changed from the fight between blue and red, so between Conservative and Labour. It used to be quite a Labour place. Then it became Green in the early 2000s. And now it's a coalition of, well, it's a rainbow. It's green, red, and blue. But it's largely green and red. And then finally, the last Monday, or the second last Monday of the term, I'm going to talk about how do you plan for your dissertation. Because we used to do this in the beginning of the term too, and people are like, oh, you know, we had the whole break, we should have started thinking about these things. So it's kind of a parting gift for you to think over the break of what will you do your dissertations on. Because I know if you notice...
Just in case there was any chance of you having a nice Christmas break.
It is fun.
You've only got 2 essays to write over the Christmas break, after all.
There's 60 credits around your dissertation.
We go back to that.
You have 15 credits of research design and 45 credits on your dissertation itself. And research design, what we do there is we don't really teach you or train you on research methods because we used to do that, and we had half a dozen students in different methods classes because everybody tends to do different methods. And how do you choose your method? Which method? How are you going to choose what's the best method? It depends on what? What do you want to answer? And that depends on? And your hypothesis depends on? Your question, right? So that's what we do in research design is we'll go back to the question. We will work on what is the puzzle. What are you trying to solve? What don't we know about the world? And then from there, okay, now I know what is my question. How am I going to answer it? What kind of data do I need? And how do I collect that data? How do I analyze that data? Because quite often when you do research methods, you notice, for those of you that have done research methods, quite often is about data collection more than data analysis. And my question is always, now that you've got the data, what do? Do you shake? Do you stir? What do you do with it, right? So what we do here is go over the kind of the basic steps of your research strategy. Think of it as a battle plan, right? There's a quote from one guy from West Point on planning, which he said, the planning is a great exercise. Unfortunately, the enemy refuses to follow the plans. Right? But yet we still plan, right? And that's precisely what you're doing in research design is, this is what I intend to do. Please, Sussex University, please, IDS, let me go ahead and do my research for the next 3 months. This is what I plan to do. Right? This is the stuff that I try to answer, and this is how I plan to do it. And this is why it's very important to do it, and to do it in the MA Gov. So that's research design.
So just to clarify, that means that the assessment for research design is your dissertation proposal, which is why Miguel says your dissertation has
60 credits.
60 credits overall, because your plan for the dissertation is marked as the assessment of research design before you then go on to do the dissertation.
Yeah. And it's actually, we as an exception, because it's a valid exception, the marker for your research design is going to be your supervisor, because they are the ones that are guiding you and know the most. But then the course conveners are the marks checker to make sure that there's no bias there. The other few credits that you have in term 2 is democracy and public policy, which is a 30 credit module, which means again it's 11 weeks. And you notice, I don't know, have you seen term 2, the dates? For the past 3 years, you're going to have 10 weeks of classes, 3 weeks of Easter break, and then 1 more week of classes. Sussex. Everything that is, I forgot to say that, everything that is wrong at IDS, we blame Sussex. And in this case, it's true, it is Sussex. Don't know why they have that timetable. We've been asking them, can't we just start a week earlier in January so that people have that big break, because people might want to go home or something. But yes, that extra week, which it's been happening for the past 3 years. In democracy and public policy, a fun way to think about it is, so if you think of making public policy about policy implementation, if you think of political economy perspectives, oh, there's an S missing, on development, think of it as kind of the overall governance on development. That's what Mick and others do with that. Democracy and public policy, think of it as a triangle, where throughout most of the weeks there's different themes, either on conflict, on gender, on local governance, where you have democracy, public policy, and that particular theme. And you've got, what you're learning, the countries that you're studying, kind of going through this triangle. It's an interesting way of thinking about it. And then you do 30 more credits, and they're optionals, which means there are, I think, 11 options you can choose. 2 of them are 30 credit options, which is health and development and politics of gender. The remaining options are 15 credits, so it's up to you to choose either 130 credit or 215. Bear in mind that sometimes the 215 credits might happen at the beginning, in the first half of term 2, or the second half, or, if you're lucky, throughout, or both at the beginning, or even worse, both at the end, when you're submitting everything in May. We own, as in the governance cluster owns 2 of these options. Actually, we own more, but officially we only own 2, which is the public financial management, which usually happens in the second half of the term, and the governance of violent conflict. There's 2 conflict modules. So for those of you interested in conflict, you can do a 30 credit conflict because there's 2 different. There's governance of conflict in security, or whatever it's called. Think of it as studying conflict at the macro level, and there's poverty, conflict, and inequality, which is studying conflict at the micro level, at the household level. Or you can do both, there's 60 credits. And there's a bunch of other, it's entirely up to you what you want to do.
And you make the choices for that, you choose those modules sometime in November.
In November, mid-November, yeah.
So you don't need to think about it now. We'll have plenty of time that you can chat to us about what you
And we'll talk to you as well. We'll give you ideas of how to choose
and we'll
the
know
modules.
You a bit by then, so we'll have some idea of what
exactly.
will work for you.
So that's, and then, so early January, mid-January, it's when you have your last 2 essays of term 1, which is the essay for, the second essay for making public policy.
I think you've got onto this.
There you go. Shall we start from the beginning then? So the first essay that you write is what we call the introductory essay, which is due on Monday, the 3rd of October by 9 a.m. And it's formative, which means we don't grade it. We don't give it a grade. If it was summative, if we sum it up, we'll give you a percentage. In this case, is not. And the introductory essay, honestly speaking, let me give you the history of this, since I've been doing this for a while. Basically, it's us dividing the world in a very simple typology of 2 types of people at IDS, students. One is students that they can survive. They can write essays, it's fine. And there's a group of students that I think their academic English, not the English, but the academic writing style needs a bit of help. And if they need a bit of help, we then have a couple of extra sessions, a couple of extra workshops. One of them done by Sussex. They do a really good, they do different types of workshops. There's one in particular really good on how do you paraphrase and how you reference. And the paraphrasing is really good stuff. And it's like a couple of hours or something. And then I'm not sure if Terry Cannon does a couple of sessions or not. Sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't. But we'll have a couple of extra sessions on improving your academic writing, your academic written English. How do we know that? Well, we need some kind of proof, and that's why we do this essay. So, as I usually say every year, we'll give you a question, and you have about 1,000 words to answer that question. I don't really care, or we don't really care. Sorry, it's the first time I'm convening 2, so I keep on using the I. I should do the panto, we. So we don't really care about the answer, but it's not true. We do care. We don't care if it's right or wrong. Social sciences, what is right anyway? But it's more to see how is your academic English, right? Do you answer the question, so on and so forth. And the reason why it's due on the 3rd of October, and if you talk to people from other masters, they have a longer deadline, is because you become my guinea pigs for the 3rd of October session on critical writing. Because what we do is we work on each other's essays, on different exercises on structure and language and analysis and so on and so forth. So it kind of, killing two birds and with one stone, and I apologize to the bird lovers. There was a sketch like that with a Scottish guy. Anywho, that's the main reason why. So, and it's a fairly simple essay. Don't overthink it, right? It's just to figuring out how much extra help you need or not. Answer the question in 1,000 words. Do it in Microsoft Word, because then, for two reasons. One, you need to submit it through Canvas, through Turnitin. So it's a good exercise for you to get used to Turnitin. Turnitin is, what's the name of the thing? It's similarity detection software. In other words, it catches if you're plagiarizing or not. To a certain extent, it's a tool. We can find it in other ways as well. So that helps you. And initially, it's trying to figure out, are you plagiarizing or not? Because sometimes you do, because you're not used to it. We had a student a few years ago where the whole thing was just copy-paste, plagiarize. And I told him, that's plagiarism. And he asked me, what's that? It's like, you're just copy-pasting. You can't do that. It's not allowed here. So, okay, I won't do it again. And he never did it again. He never did it again, because that's how he used to write reports in his organization. So, the idea here is getting used to it, because, again, because you're being assessed on your writing. So let's work on the writing so that the writing doesn't become an issue and we're more focused on the content. Right? That's the main idea here.
But also, because your first graded assignment is due on the 4th of November, we want to make sure that you have a chance to write for us, get some feedback, and then incorporate that before you actually submit a graded assessment. So,
yeah.
Shall we just have a look at the question? We've got
sure, yeah.
We've got time, haven't we? Bear with me, because I'll have to log into Canvas.
I was going to say something about the question, the essay.
Oh, just Canvas?
Yeah, so what we'll do is we're going to half it. Yay, I'm not doing it alone. We're going to half, so I'll read 22 essays, he's going to read 22 essays, and we'll give you comments. So you heard that there's the one-on-one meeting next week. So we'll do that. There's a second one-on-one, a much shorter one, just to discuss your essay, which we'll do it a week after the 3rd, maybe around the 10th or something. So we can have a bit of a chat about the writing style.
So that's...
Yeah?
So this is Canvas. This is the essay question. I don't know if you've been emailed it yet, but have you been emailed it? Lisa doesn't always. You have had it, okay. So that you should recognize this. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can view this on Canvas. Yeah. Not everyone gets straight into Canvas.
Oh, put the student view so that they see.
It will look exactly, no, it will look almost exactly the same.
Much easier. There's all the stuff hidden from you.
So I wanted to show you how to submit via Turnitin, but I get an error. I'm not allowed. Maybe I'm not allowed to submit work that I mark myself.
Yeah.
That would be a strange rule. But yeah, so that's the question, which is very small there now. But the question is asking you about the reading for what are the 2 essential readings from Making Public Policy session 1. So it's a reading that you'd have to do anyway. As Miguel says, don't stress too much about it. Just sit down and try and write something. Give us some sense of how you write. And include some referencing so we can give you some feedback. As you say, I'll send out a link on the university site about basic referencing principles so that you've got something. But it's much better for us to give you feedback on what you're doing individually. So that's the point of it. Yes.
Which is why we try to give you the least amount of instructions from the beginning, because we want to see how do you do things, and then we work on that.
So on the introductory meetings, I think that, just to clarify, you have a sign-up sheet?
I have a sign-up sheet that I will put. I'm not going to put now because you're going to start writing your name. Yeah, you want to put it there. It's for the South Asian Sephardish. It's the Portuguese connection, obviously. They have priority. But you put your name there so that I have an idea and everybody has an idea of who's coming to my office when. The reason I'm not putting yet is because you still don't know your groups. Lisa is going to email you any time now. So I'll put them up on Monday. You'll notice there's a few boards there when you walk in. There's the MA Gov. I already put something there, the tax sessions. So I'll put this there so that you can put your name. But as I said, I'll do it Monday morning. So by then you know which group. So if you're going to be in the seminar, you're not going to put your name at that particular time. And I think I have like 40 or 42 slots because my assumption is that at least 5 people are not going to be here for the first week, as usual.
So you'll have a one-to-one with Miguel. That's next week, isn't it?
Yep.
And then the following week you submit your essay. I'm just going to see everyone because I'll see you on Tuesday for Making Public Policy anyway. So I'll just see everyone the following week. And then if I was the one who marked your essay, I'll do the essay feedback at the same time. So there's a bunch of appointments on Canvas for that because I prefer to use Canvas for my sign-ups. A bunch of people have signed up for that already. Shall I maybe just show people how to do that? So once you're in Canvas, you can go to the calendar. And I'm in the student view, so this is the way that you would see it. You click on Find Appointment, and then you can choose your modules, although I don't know why it's not giving me a choice. But there's appointments in there. And because that's in October, I go forward, and you can see that there's a bunch of meetings there. These are the ones that are available. Others have been taken already. And you can just sign up by reserving there. I find that an easier way to manage it than a sign-up sheet.
Digital, analog.
Miguel prefers to have a bit of paper stuck somewhere.
It's fun. Also, it's a way of showing off to the other master's programs. Look how much stuff we're doing. But do not be snobbish about it. We had complaints in previous years that the MA-Govs were being too snobbish. Just like the IDS master students were being too snobbish as compared to the IDS, the Sussex people. So beware of that. Don't go around showing all your badge and everything. It's about making friends. And so that's the first essay. So we're just trying to kind of get a feel of what's your writing style and how much help you need. So on the 4th of November, it's the deadline for the first Making Public Policy assignment. You have 2 questions. You choose a question and you answer those questions. Colin and Meenakshi and Anu will discuss a bit more. Probably you guys in the seminars.
Yeah, so I spoke to Lisa about this earlier. So breaking news. Lisa, for some reason, now feels that we can show the essay questions before they've been approved.
Oh yeah, they need to be approved by the external exam.
So the essay questions for Making Public Policy we've written them, but they need to be approved by the external examiner before they're final. But Lisa said that she thinks we can kind of show them to you anyway, so you're just a bit reassured about what's coming up. So actually, next Tuesday in Making Public Policy, we'll show you what those questions are going to be, so you can start thinking about them. It's a choice, as Miguel says. There are 2 questions. You choose to answer one of them, and they will all relate to the content from the first 4 weeks of term. So it is quite early, but we're doing our best to make sure you're getting ahead of the material and can be thinking about it.
I'll discuss something about grading after. So that's the first essay, 50%, 2,500 words. Your Political Economy Perspectives essay is on the 18th of November, and it's a smaller, it's 1,500 word essay, so it's much more to the point. I've persuaded Mick over the years to send the email complaining about you not answering the question before you submit the essay, so that it makes you answer the question, because that's largely what you try to do here. In fact, think of the assessments for term 1 as we're going to give you a couple of questions, you choose a question, you answer the question. The assessments in term 2 is you come up with the question and then you answer that question, more or less. So the second essay for Making Public Policy on the 5th of January is exactly the same thing. It's 2,500 words. Again, we're going to give you 2 questions. Choose one, you answer that question. And then on the 12th of January is a takeaway paper. So roughly, I think, I can't remember now, but let's pretend that Mick and company are going to give you 2 days before the day you submit your paper, they'll give you 10 questions, and you choose 3, and you got 2 days to think about how to answer them, and you answer those 3 questions in 3,500 words, more or less like that. When I did the MA many, many years ago, it was a proper exam, like physical exam, a 2-hour exam or something. You did an exam as well?
At the end of it.
Yeah.
I hadn't had to sit and write for 2
Yeah.
hours.
So you get the questions 2 days before, you think how to answer that. You don't memorize your answer.
So some people don't love it being a takeaway paper, but at least you get to type. So
Yeah.
we're kind of gradually
Exactly.
moving things along.
Yeah, and I feel bad for the markers because they would have to understand our handwriting. At least now it's typed. And that's pretty much all the assessments you have in term 1. Yeah, that's about it. When you're not sure about stuff, always go to Canvas. Canvas, think of it as, in terms of communication, Canvas is where almost everything is. When you're in doubt about anything administrative, Lisa Ross is the person. And the good and bad thing about Lisa is that she's always online, quite often. So she's quite, I'm sure that when you were applying, that Lisa would reply to you within 24 hours sometimes. Or it's a bit crazy, but yes, that's Lisa. Anything admin related, any queries you have or something, talk to Lisa. She knows everything about it. Anything content related, either go to your module conveners, so Anu and Mick in term 1, or come and talk to the course conveners. The course conveners. You notice now that the MA is a course and the subjects are modules. Don't know why. I think it was 10 years ago Sussex came up with it. It's true. So, what else? Oh yeah, and then there's tutors, which are the people that, think of them as the traffic wardens, that help the flow of discussion in the seminars, which is LOD and Max for political economy, and Colin and Meenakshi for making public policy. And then next term, 15 credit modules don't have tutors, because they're 15 credits, they're only like 6 classes. But for democracy, it's going to be Colin and someone else. Don't know whom.
Yeah, and it's an important part of module tutors' roles to provide supervision for your assignments. So, although we've got an assignment quite soon, and you have 4 separate assignments for this term, it's definitely part of our jobs as module tutors to give you a chance to have support on that, to talk through your ideas, to do well, basically, and to prepare for them. So you will still be able to, in most cases you'll have access to the module convener as well, so you can go and chat to them, but definitely it's our job as module tutors to run one-to-ones and to look at your work and help you improve it after the first assignment and so on.
And Sussex so that's the other great thing about being an IDS student, is whatever Sussex students have access to, you have access to. And whatever things you have access as an IDS student, they don't. And Sussex University has access to a lot of things, which is what Liz is going to be helping us out throughout the year, finding those things. One of them is the Student Support Office. If you have disabilities, physical or mental, please go contact the student support office. Let us know about them. We're discreet about it, but it helps in terms of getting extra time for submitting essays, for instance, or us being aware of what are the conditions under which you're working, basically, throughout the master's program. And Linda, besides being the director of teaching, she's also the person in charge of student satisfaction or something experience, maybe not satisfaction. Student experience. So if you have issues with the course or life as a student at Sussex IDS, talk to Linda. But rule of thumb, anything admin related, Lisa, anything content related, module conveners, course conveners. Pastoral support, hand-holding, stuff like that, Colin Anderson. Usually famous for that. What else? What else do you have in those slides?
What else do we have on the slides? Good question.
Oh.
No, we're not going to go to that yet.
Oh.
You can have a break for a minute. We're going to look at Canvas. Just
Oh, yeah,
because,
Who knows how to work with Canvas already? I would assume 1, 2, 3. Oh, quite a few. Excellent. See, so those of you that did not raise your hands, can you raise the hands, the ones that know how to work with Canvas? Raise your hands. Okay, for those of you that don't, these are your IT specialists that you're going to need. Because as I said, everything is on Canvas. You submit your essays on Canvas. The readings are, you can access them through Canvas. Booking appointments through Canvas. There's a lot of stuff in Canvas, so it's very important to know. And there's two other things connected with that, which is email addresses. Accessing Canvas and all of that stuff, it's your Sussex email account. But if you try to talk to us, IDS people, we're a bit full of ourselves. If you try to talk to us through Sussex email addresses, we don't, right? We always use our IDS email address. I have a Sussex page where the first thing I write is use my IDS page. Don't engage with us through Sussex because it's a different email account. I have to open a different thing, and quite often it used to be the same, but now they don't allow us to merge. Canvas.
you can also, I don't mind if you message me via Canvas. So you can message me via Canvas as well instead of email if you want, and I get a notification of that. Canvas is also where not only where you submit your work, but it's where you see your feedback. And when you first get work, I'll talk you through that so you can see how to see the comments and so on. But this is how Canvas will look for you. This is the Making Public Policy module. There's a bunch of information up here, but the key thing that you want is to look at each session. This is just for the people who are perplexed or haven't seen it yet. So each week has a bunch of material. It includes the reading list. Sometimes the reading is linked, so you can just open it directly from the page, but most of the time you'll have to go to this link, which is the library reading list, and you access the material there.
Sorry, what about the additional readings? Because they're not on
No,
there.
you have to use the abilities to search the library catalogue.
I'm meant to be a researcher. So there's a limit to the spoon feeding. He does a lot, but still.
Yeah. So all of the essential readings and the supplementary readings are all available. Not all of the recommended readings might not even all be available, but most of them are. And to look for those, you would just go to the University of Sussex Library search, which can be a little bit temperamental, but it works in the end. Sometimes you have to rearrange what you put into it. But, yeah. Some of them, increasingly, links are going in, but because the lists are changed each year, new things are going in with links. But Joe? Okay. So your essential readings are listed on this library page here. The others you can find yourselves. If you were to open one, that's a bad idea. But this is a useful thing to say. This article, which is an essential reading for week 1, although Anu somewhat unhelpfully said you can choose. This one's very short, so I'm going to tell you to read this one. But because it's a bit tricky to find, I've just added it directly to the Canvas page as a download. So get it on this occasion. Get your reading from there rather than engaging with the APSA website that it's on. So each week you've got your list. You might start off very ambitiously, thinking that you're going to do all of this reading, but you're not. I tell you. Make sure you obviously do the essential readings. The supplementary readings. It's always great if someone's read one or two of them, or looked at them before we have seminars. We're not expecting you to go through all of these additional readings every week. You don't. Some people spend ages trying to gather them all together. Don't do that. Just focus on the essential readings for the first few weeks. You can always go back. This isn't going anywhere. The purpose of the recommended reading and additional reading is when you come to write essays or do assignments, then you've got something. If you choose to work on I don't know, bureaucracy, which is Miguel's lecture in week 3 of Making Public Policy, then you know you can go to Miguel's extremely extensive reading list on bureaucracies that's on the webpage.
As a starting point, I've been told to cut them as well. It's a starting point, right? It's not, this is the definitive literature on, I don't know, the Mandarin style of bureaucracy. It's a starting point, and for you to then snowball into what else should you be reading.
Some of the pages. You've got blogs or videos, haven't you? So this is the session that I was talking about. Some of them have got videos, some of them got blogs or podcasts. We've been encouraging that, but not all of the sessions that people have found things for. So that we're trying to mix up different material as well. That should all be kind of fairly obvious on the page. And yeah, it will become easy for you to use. Maybe you're used to something similar, but you can always ask for help if you get stuck. We just don't want people to be stranded, not able to access their readings for week 1, because week 1 is next week. So
can you put the
you can all
MAGov
get into the system and get what you need?
Can you put the MAGov page?
Okay.
Just for...
I have to leave student view.
So, in the introduction and welcome, you notice there's lots of stuff. It gets repeated a bit in terms of some of the sessions. On the core sessions on TACT, you'll notice it's empty right now. It just has titles. At the end of each session, whatever material we use, we talk about, we discuss, I'll add them there, or we add them there. So right now there's nothing. But we keep on adding different material that we might use. The other thing that I did, which is very useful, is if you click on IT support, there's a link there that I've added, right there. List of IT software, most of which you can access for free while at IDS. And if you click on it, it takes you to the Sussex page that has all the software that we can access because we're also part of Sussex. And some of it will be in their computers, in some of the computer rooms. A lot of it you can use, you can download, you can access, such as NVivo if you're coding material, such as SPSS, Stata, unfortunately they don't have. What do they have? Qualtrics, which is, do you guys ever used, what's it called, SurveyMonkey? Think of if you're running surveys, think of SurveyMonkey as a bicycle and Qualtrics as an aeroplane. That's how good it is. It's really expensive, and we can use it for free while you're here. It's really, really good. It helps you. It tells you that, if you ask a question like this, 60% of the time people don't answer. Or it tells you, this is how it looks on people's mobiles. It's really, if you're doing surveys, large end surveys. And there's lots of other software that you can use as Sussex students. So click there and go through that.
We're done on Canvas?
I think so, yeah. And we keep on adding things throughout. The other thing we use on Canvas is the announcements, like Colin was saying. If we're saying, there's been a change in the readings, or here's an exercise, there's that. Another one is discussions. There's another item which is, and we use that quite often in the modules. We used it particularly a lot during COVID because we didn't have the classroom, right? So to continue conversations, we would use discussions online where people would add things, and each module has a Canvas page, and the course has the overall Canvas page as well, and there's a few others. Joe?
Will you publish the lecture and the seminar slides and recordings for each week?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how. So the recordings go automatically after, because before we had to do them before the lecture. Well, half of it was pre-recorded and the other half was live, but then recorded as well. Now we're just going to be face-to-face in person, so it's going to be recorded, and then we'll put it after. We had lots of discussions about should we release last year's lectures, because a lot of them are similar from last couple of years, and we realized, because that's the beauty of IT, is that we can see how much students are watching or not, and how many minutes, and when do they stop. And we notice overwhelming majority doesn't watch more than a few minutes and they get tired. So, we'll put it there, but we don't spend that much time in kind of fixing it. And I mean, we spent hours doing captions last year, which is very frustrating. Weber does not come out as Weber. But yes, think of Canvas as the deposit. Think of it as the library where we put things, including discussions. We want to continue particular discussions. Anything else from Canvas? Oh yeah, one more thing, sorry. If you click, can you click on your account? There's Colin's face there.
Hasn't worked.
If you click on your account.
Sorry, just to clarify, lectures are recorded, and the recordings of those lectures go into this section called Panopto recordings on Canvas. I was trying to find an old version, a previous year to show you. So you can re-watch that lecture. You can watch it at 4 times the speed. You can, if you want to see Anu doing this, which you might. And you get the PowerPoint separately. Generally you won't get anything before the class, so you don't get that before the class. Seminars are not recorded, so and the other thing which you were probably told by Linda anyway is that we take attendance in seminars. So if attendance is important to you for visa reasons, so you need to particularly be in the seminar or notify absence.
And we take attendance for everybody because so officially, who started this? Theresa May, and then Peti Patel, and now, what's her name? I forgot, the new interior minister. But anyway, the idea is to figure out if you foreigners were here to steal jobs or were actually doing a master's. So we decided, well, either there's morality or, everybody gets the same. So we take attendance for everybody. We don't just take the non-UK students. And if you are going to miss a seminar, 30 credit modules, we take attendance on the seminars. 15 credit, it's on the lectures. If you're going to miss a seminar, or if you have missed a seminar, just tell us. Like, I'm not going to be, I'm sick or something, so that we can keep it on the record. And His Majesty, I'm changing the gender now. His Majesty's guards don't come and because they do audits as well.
Just to be clear, we don't actually report this week by week to the government.
Oh, no.
This is just record keeping in case there was,
Yes, because we love bureaucratic stuff. If you click on your account, and some of you have a face because you've added your face, some of you haven't. So the point is you go into the settings and you put a picture of yourself. It's just nice so that we know who you are. It was very important during COVID because we did not know who you were. So everybody had to put their pictures there. But you can play around with this. There's a lot of things you can play. The other thing you can do, which is very important, is to add your IDS address so that all the Canvas information goes to your IDS email address. It's very important. I think that's about it in terms of Canvas.
I think so.
You'll get used to it. What else do we have besides Canvas?
Learning journals.
Learning
We're
journals.
End on learning journals.
Learning journals. So learning journals, you've got that hand note of what a learning journal is. Yeah? You didn't get a note? No. It's on Canvas. It'll be on Canvas in a couple of pages at least. The learning journal is, interesting.
Lectures are going to be interesting next week.
I know, it's going to be fun because it's something that,
Broken the computer that just gave me 4 terms.
The learning journals are, think of it as diaries. Right? You start at the end of the week, every week, at the end of the week, you start with, "Dear diary, I've learned something new today," or this week. And you write in, you type in a couple of pages your reflection on a particular learning. Now, this is not a shopping list. And in MPP, we learned this, and in PPD, we learned that. And then there was this lunchtime seminar. Pick one thing. Of all the things, we're assuming you learn more than one thing in that week. Of all the things that you've learned, pick one, and then reflect on that learning. What is new? How did I used to think about this? How do I think about it now? Or, I never thought about this, and now I'm thinking about this. And it's very important because I'm writing about it. I'm thinking about this. Right? Why is this important to me? Why, am I doing something, am I going to do something different from now onwards because of that? And there's three things that you're doing here which is really useful. One, you're reflecting, so you're improving your reflective skills, go back to the critical thinking. The other one is you're getting into the rhythm of writing. Because, and this is not, it has to be in English, but it's not academic English. So write as you like, as long as it's in English, because we can read and comment. So you're getting into a rhythm that every week, at the end of the week, you're writing a couple of pages about your reflections on your learning. The other thing is that every week we're reading your diaries. We're not sharing or making fun of people. Oh, look, they said this. But we can see if you're learning or not. What are the issues here that you might be struggling or not? So for instance, I don't know, if we teach you something and you start reflecting and you're saying completely wrong things, we'll have a conversation with you in terms of like, I don't think you got that point. So there's three advantages to that. The way that we want you guys to do is write it, email it to us, because then we share, so that every week there's a different person reading and commenting. And what I like to do is I like to print them out, and which is why I'm saying 2 pages maximum. So it's only one piece of paper back and forth. And then I like to write about it, like, why do you say so? Why is this? Oh, you should read so and so. The idea is to kind of guide you into that. Think of it as a dialectic conversation. Unfortunately, once you receive our feedback, you're not going to answer and continue, because we could do this just with one learning journal, right? We can go back and forth. But we don't have the time for that, because it's been another week, you learned more stuff. So the idea is, you reflect on something you learned, we'll give you some comments, some ideas, or other things you can think about, or other stuff to read, and then we'll give you back the learning journal by the end of the week, and you'll give us another here's another one, here's another entry for you to read. And you get to this sequence of every week you're writing a learning journal, every week you're getting used to write a couple of pages, kind of breaking that ice. You might want to link up stuff. I've learned this today, but I've been working on this, and it's actually the other way that I can see it happening. Or it's entirely up to you what you want to write about. The only thing that I insist is pick one thing only, right? So that you can develop your thinking about that. You're not just listing stuff that you've learned. What else?
Sure.
Yep.
Would you suggest a specific structure, like
Nope.
No?
It's entirely up to you.
So, I have a question. So, since there's no specific structure, can that also have like a flow chart? I mean, if you visualize...
If you can have what?
Like some kind of visual, if you're reflecting on something which is like a flow of sorts, and then write on...
Sure, yeah. Yeah, if it helps. Are you trying to get away with less words? Is that what... yeah, you can put an image or something. Yeah, it's not academic English, right? I'm not going to fix your grammar. It's about your thinking and your reflection and working on your reflective powers, basically. That's largely it.
So one more question. So when you say focus on one thing, you mean per journal, right? Not
Yeah.
across the...
Yeah. So this week I learned this at MPP, which was great, and this at PPD, and so on and so forth, or TACT or whatever. But I went to this lunchtime seminar at Sussex in the Department of, Anthropology. And there was this talk, which was very interesting, that made me think about this. And that's because there was something you learned that week. And I'm not very picky. I mean, I had a couple of people, now and again, small minority, but still a few people, learning and reflecting about life in the UK. Coming from, I'm coming from Peru. It wasn't you, because you haven't written one yet. And I'm struggling in this, and then I started thinking, and going into the transportation system, and British trains compared to transportation in Peru. So, pick on whatever you want. The idea is to reflect on a learning. Obviously, if it's connected to the MA Gov, that's great, but it doesn't have to. Because there's other stuff that connected that you're indirectly that you're doing here.
And really, don't make too much of it. I used to write my learning journals on the bus. So at the end of the week, on a Friday, when I left campus on a Friday, I would just write my learning journal on the way home. Think of it as a diary. It's not an assignment. And so, everyone can keep a diary, and it's a good practice. It's a really useful way to test out your thoughts, but also, in my experience, when we got to term 3, almost all of the things I chose to write essays about came from a learning journal. There were things that were on my mind, and I developed those thoughts, partly with Miguel giving me other ideas, and developed those into things that I then did research and wrote about. So it's a really powerful tool, but just don't worry about it too much or make it too big a thing. And don't worry about your English if you don't need to make it perfect at all.
Yeah.
The process for this it still needs a bit of refining, because Miguel and I will probably share this. The responding to your learning journals, we will probably share with the teaching assistant, who is yet to be recruited.
Yeah, and who would be a final year PhD student that knows a bit about critical thinking. Otherwise, there's no point. Because that's largely what we need a teaching assistant. In the MA Gov, that's largely what we need a teaching assistant for, is to help us with the learning journals. Because there's 44 of you, and every week you're writing an entry. So it's making sure that everybody gets some comments on that. Anything else in the learning journal? No? Okay. Oh, you'll see as you start writing and we start commenting how it goes. Anything else?
I think we're done.
Oh, I have a list of things. Lisa is not here, but I'm here on behalf of Lisa. So all the red dots. We're going to put this document on Canvas anyway for you. But there's a couple of things.
8 pages of things that Lisa thinks are
Lisa-related things. So there are lockers. You notice there's a few lockers. You can access those lockers. Just go to the reception and pay £10 deposit, and you'll get the key. There's not enough lockers because there's more of you than lockers, so it's a first come, first served basis. You might want to share a locker as well, so 2 of you have a locker. Pigeonholes. You know what a pigeonhole is? Who knows what a pigeonhole is?
Labels. It's just basically like a big sort of space where you have like holes where you can put
Pigeons?
paper. Yeah. Where you can
I have never...
have your name tags on